This is Gemara Pesachim Daf Chavtal. Tonight, Shir should be a schus for Shem Chaim Minchas ben Malki Demir ben Akira Ben Ben Viga Chaim ben Sarshon Sibra Nizil Sar Bas Kenedel Is the Basim was Chayzer Is Chaim Saraz Yosol Mendel Eliyahu the President Shavalei Shalom Bas Saviv Shavek Shulchan Avodav Ni Tariv the Neil ben Chana Raise the Bracha Bas Tivia Musa from Simon Ash Esim Chaz Sibra ben Nithil Huva Pesach Shachli Israel as well as Chosiva at the Leah Bas Ita. The truth is we're holding at the very bottom of Chalkim Al Beis. We're going to go up a little bit. Let's move up to Michti because that's really going to give us a head start in today's daf. First one line is Kol, about 20 lines at the bottom. And again, if anyone hasn't seen yet, we're starting to produce some very nice, short, 4 minutes overview of the daf where we map out the daf, show it inside, give everyone a nice big picture. It's on YouTube, it's on there anytime, and as well, we are starting to send them out via WhatsApp. You can see the number on YouTube and on the video itself. Let's pick it up from halfway down Chav Gimel Beis one more time. Says the Gemara Mechti. Osvinu kolani krav sheninu, and we answered Chizkiya Ravua b'mai pligi. What is the machlekes Chizkiya that says we learn from Lo Yachel? Ravua that learns it out either from the Vela or from Treifa. Is what are the cases they're arguing? Chametz Pesach believe the Rabbanan that there is an Isra of Chametz Pesach. And Shar Niska believe the Divrei Kol that the Isra benefit from the ox that once it has get stoned. Chizkiya nafiklei milayach. Avruah nafiklei minavela. Says the Gemara Mechti. The Gemara Surmanam. What is the practical difference in Chizkiya and Ravavua? Seemingly is semantics. They're both agreeing there's an Isra Hana. So what's going on? Says the Gemara. Ikbei Nayud and Afkamina is Chulin shenishchu ba'azara. The case of Chulin that was shechted in the wrong place. And Rashi points out, we're going Valiba de Rav Yehuda. According to Rav Yehuda, who learned out that the Makar is from Treifa, Lekelev Tashichon Isai, that is going to be the difference between Chizkiya and Rav Avua. As the Gemara now explains, Chizkiya Savar Lo Yi'achel Mutehani. Says in the Torah, Lo Yi'achel, you cannot eat, comes to exclude that both Chametz and as well Shar and Niskal, you're not allowed to get benefit from it. Oisai, and this is the part we read wrong yesterday, so let's correct it. Oisai, the word Oisai from Mikelev Tashichon Oisai Lemuute comes to exclude as well that only it's going to be allowed to be fed to the dogs, the treifa, but nothing else. However, chulin shenishal tu ba'azara, you are not going to be allowed to get benefit. There will be an iser hana on chulin shenishal ba'azara on a daraisa level, says Chizkiya. Rav Avua Sava Ravua argues, and what does he hold? Rav Avua Sava Ravua holds Oisai Lemutehani. The pasuk of the Kelet Tashichon Oisai comes to exclude only the treifa you let it throw to the dogs, but everything else, yes, as an Isser and no. And therefore, Chulin Shenishchu Ba'azara Lav Daraisa Ninu. He holds that we come to exclude all the other cases, Chametz and Shar and Iskal, do not, yes, have an Isra Hana from the fact that those are not be allowed to throw to the dogs. Just the treifa can be thrown to the dogs. However, Chulin Shenishchu Ba'azara, according to Ravavua, Lav Daraisa Ninu, it's not a Din Daraisa. It's going to be a Din Darabanan that they're going to come along and say you cannot get benefit. So the practical difference that Chizkiya is going to learn, the Chulin that was shechted Ba'azara has an Isser Daraisa of Hana, whereas according to Ravavua, it's only going to be an Isser Darabanan of Hana. That's going to be the practical difference between Ravavua and Chizkiya. Says the Gemara, a bit of a different opinion. Yasa Humei Rabbanim v'Kamei Rav Shmuel bar Nachmeni. V'Yasa v'Kamar Mishvei Rav Shua ben Levi. And he was saying the name of Rav Shua ben Levi. Minayin l'chol yisurin Shabbat Torah t'cheichel yisurin ba'achilach and ha'masur ba'ana. Our discussion. How do you know whenever the Torah says something is asur, it's asur entirely, even ba'ana? For example, so it says Rabbi Shua ben Levi, where do I know this from? Minayin tebik le mi lo yiachel. Says the Gemara, lo yiachel isra achila mashmalei. Isra no lo mashmalei. So it can't be from lo yiachel. Why not? Because again, Rabbi Shua ben Levi is coming to figure out where do we know the Isra Hana by all Isurim. First attempt, says the Gemara, is lo yiachel Chizkiya. Says Gemara, no, Rabbi Shua ben Levi does not agree with Chizkiya. He holds lo yiachel only means Isra achila. So attempt number 2, typically mean Nevela, like Rav Yuvua learned that only by Nevela we gave specific allowances, but other items is an Isra no. Says the Gemara no. Rav Yehuda Damar Dvarim Kichsavan. Rav Yehuda learned you can't learn out from the Vela because it's only the case he was talking about giving it to the guy and selling it to the Ger, etc. But we can't learn that everywhere else. So says the Gemara, he holds like Rav Yehuda. Sounds like Rav Yehuda table Mechel and Rav Yehuda. Where did Rav Yehuda? This is a beautiful summary. Chaval V'Amid Beis. Where did Rav Yehuda learn out from? Says the Gemara, Mile Kelet Ashichanai. So let him learn out from there. But now, says the Gemara, no, Rabbi Shimon Levi can't. And this is why it was so important that we went back to see the previous Gemara. Because we just said a moment ago that if you go from the Kalef Tashlichon Isai, what are you forced to say? You're forced to say that Chulin, according to Rav Avua, we said over here that you're forced to say Chulin Shenichshu Ba'azara Lav Da'araiseninu. It's not a Din Da'arais, it's rather a Din Da'Ravanan. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Levi holds, because Chulin Shenichshu Ba'azara Da'araisa. And therefore he's stuck. Minayin, where do you know that all these Yisurin have an Isra Ana? He can't learn out from Chizkiah. He can't learn out from Rav Avua, Rav Yehuda. And because he does not agree, and rather Yos Chulin Shenichshu Ba'azara is a Din Da'araisa. So says the Gemara, he learns it out from Dechsev, Kol Chatas Asher Yuva B'Indama B'Gomer, Shein Ta'amalaymer B'Ishti Sarif. This is going to be a third Mikar, or actually a fourth Mikar for those who are keeping tracks. We really had two Mikaris within Rav Avua, Rav Meir, and Rav Yehuda. And then we had Chizkiah, a fourth way of knowing Yisra Ana. Says the Gemara, the Torah did not have to say B'Ishti Sarif. They have to burn the chatas pot that's possible. Why did it tell us that you should burn it? If we don't need it for itself, they have to burn the chatas which is possible. Why? Because the Torah says in the last line, you have to burn it. So therefore, rather we'll learn out from here to all these Surin of the Torah that what? You have Isser Achila. And the Gemara continues of Chavdal and Aleph. And if we don't need it for Achila, teaching us that you're not allowed to eat it. We learn out from Isser Ana. So again, now we're learning out from Be'ishti Saref is the Makar that there's going to be an Isser Ana. Says Gemara, 1 second. Ima kan b'sreifa, avkol yisur shevater b'sreifa. If this is the makar from the Ishti Saref, so no one's going to come out. Not only are you not allowed to get hana from Yisur in the Torah, it's going to come out. You have to also burn them, like this din of Ishti Saref. Says Gemara, no. Amar Kra, the Torah says, Ba'kodesh b'Ishti Saref, Ba'kodesh b'sreifa, v'inkol yisur shevater b'sreifa. It's a din in kachim, you have to burn it, but not everything else. Says the Gemara, Ba'kodesh b'Ishti Saref, l'achir dasa. So Gemara seemingly just proved that what's the makar that all these Yisurim have an Isra? No, from the fact that the Torah said Ve'ishti Saref, even though we already knew you're not allowed to eat it, so why to go out of its way to single out, you have to burn in the fire? To teach us there's even an Isra Hana. Says Gemara, that can't be, because we need that pasuk for Rav Shimon. The Tani learned to the rise of Shimon Aimer Ba'Kodesh Be'ishti Saref. What do you do with this pasuk? Limit, it teaches us al chatas shesarvin azay bekodesh. They have to burn the chatas. Ve'en li elazu belvad psuli kachik adashim ve'amuri kachik kalim minayin. How do we know other things that become puzzle? Kachik kachim, kachik kalim. How do we know the imurim? Those as well you have to burn. Tamalayma, the Torah says bekodesh be'ishti saref. So Rav Shimon needed this pasuk for a different din. A din in kachim, they have to burn all that which is puzzle. So how can we learn out from there that there's an isra hana in the general sense? So Amrle Rav Yehuda's son Rabach Me'ikra Kamerla. You're right, says Rav Yehuda's son. I have a different makar to that which we just said. We're learning to that from the following pasuk. Says the Torah, V'mivasar mibasar amaluim. If there's left over from the basar miluim in a lechem and baiker v'goymer, or for the lechem until the morning, she'ein ta'amalaymer. The Torah did not have to say lo ye'achel. You cannot eat it. If it's not for itself, because it already taught us. You have to burn the leftovers in fire. So why would you have to tell me we can't eat it? If you're burning it in fire, of course you can't eat it. So therefore, let it refer to all of the Yisurim Shabbatayra that you cannot eat them. And if we don't need it for Achila purposes, and therefore that's going to be the Makar that you cannot get benefit from all these Yisurim Shabbatayra. Attempt number 2 of today. Says the Gemara, Ima kan b'sreifa, kol Yisurim Shabbatayra b'sreifa. A similar question to what we said before. Is it going to come out that the Isser is going to be only b'sreifa? You have to actually burn it. Amar Kra, says the Gemara of Sraf, that's an Isser. Noiser b'sreifa, v'inkel Yisurim Shabbatayra b'sreifa. So the Gemara now wants to come along, and the Gemara wants to say, seemingly, we have a raya that where do we know Yisurim that Yisurim have to be, there's Isser Hana. You cannot get benefit as well for the fact that the Torah said, and then it said, Lo Yachal, those extra words come to teach me that there's an Isser Hana. Says the Gemara, 1 second. We need this Lo Yachal for a different din. A similar question to what we said before. You're telling me Lo Yachal teaching me Kol Tara Kula is an Isser Hana. What do we know? We need for the din of Rav Elazar. Damar Rav Elazar Lo Yachal Kikal Yishu. Kol Shebek Kodesh Basel, Bakazalitin Loisas Al Chilasai. Says Rav Elazar, you know what this pasuk teaches us? That whenever we have something, a kachim which is puzzle, we have an extra loisasei. Not only you're not allowed to eat it, but it's an extra loisasei on top of everything. That's why the Torah had it right. Lo yachal by the basar melum and lechem and akarban, and therefore it cannot teach us in the general sense to all these surim that there is an Isser Hana. So Amar Abaye says, Mikra Kama. Go back to the original Makar. Go back to Ba'kodesh B'Sreifa, like we said on the top of the Amid, and the bottom of Amid Beis, the Ba'ishti Sareif. But says Abaye, Ve'ibach has switched it around. What do you mean switch it around? The Gemara now explains on the top wide lines. It could have just said, burn it, and it didn't have to say don't eat it. Don't eat it. Meaning we don't need it for itself because we learned it out from Rav Elazar. And then we don't even need it for eating it because we knew that already. So it says that we do learn out from Beishti Saref, but flip it around, not from the actual but the opposite, but from the words Beish Tisaref. Says the Gemara, 1 second, the same question we asked the third time of today. Is it going to then come out that all Yisurim need to be burnt? No, that's a special din by Noiser. Amar Le Rabba Labai. So it says, so seemingly we just had the Makar, that all Yisurim Shabbat are going to be forbidden. Rav Papa taught us, Ba'ishti Saref, Loi Seyachel, teaches us as an Isser Ana on all Yisurim Shabbat. Comes in Rav Papa to Abaye and he says, Ve'ima l'chudei lav l'gufei udasa. How do you know? Maybe you're just coming to teach us for itself. Says the Gemara, how do we know it's coming to teach us extra lav? According to Rav Elazar, it's teaching us lav shabachlolis, and we know that's not true. Says Rav Papa, says there's going to be a third attempt for those that are keeping track, or really a fourth attempt, because we just went back and tried to work with attempt number 1 again. Says Rav Papa, says Rav Elazar, you know, Amar Rav Papa, I'm sorry, me'achar, v'abasar she'iga b'chol tamei lo, the flesh that touches anything tamei, do not eat it. Beishi Sreivin, you should burn it. Shein Tamalaymer Layachel. Why do I have to say don't eat it? Matamalaymer Layachel, meaning Legufai, Danafkin the Kavachaimer, Mi Meiser Kal. We don't need it for itself, because we knew already by itself that this flesh that is tamei, that you cannot eat it. How do we know? From a Kavachaimer, from Meiser. And says the Gemara, Ma Meiser Akal, Amrater Lebi Arti Mimenu B'Tamei. The Torah says, even though Meiser is Kal, you still cannot destroy it with Tama. Basar Kodesh Chamar, Lokol Shekin, you can't destroy it with Tama. Maybe you'll tell me, in Mazir Menadin, you can't bring a raya from Sukkim. Sukkim can teach us a din daraisa. Hekesha hu, it's a hekish. The Torah says, Lo yisucha lecha b'sharecha, ma'isa digancha v'sirachcha v'yitzirecha, v'kayres b'karecha v'gaimer. Ma'ata ma'loimar, why did the Torah have to say, Lo yi'achel? Meaning the gufa dini l'chol yisurin shabbat Torah. So the hekish will teach us that all yisurin shabbat Torah are going to be forbidden. Meaning l'achil dini l'ana. Says Mara, 1 second. Ima kan b'sreifa, kol yisurin shabbat Torah b'sreifa. For the 4th time we're asking that question. If you're learning out for the pasuk about burning it, does it come out that all yisurin have to burn? Amar kra, noiser b'sreifa, kol yisurin shabbat Torah. And that seemingly is another makar to this din. Maybe the whole reason why the Torah wrote this was just to give you an extra lav, not necessarily to teach me that Shari Surin Shabbat Torah there is an Isra Hana. Lav mi Amar, I'm sorry, Lav Lavshtei Lavim. Lav mi Amar Abai, did Abai not teach us Oichal Putisa? Someone eats a certain water creature, like Arba, you get 4 malchus. Nimal and ant, like a Chamisha, you get 5 malchus. Moving along to Chavdal Mebeis, Syria, if you eat a hornet, like a Bishesh, you get 6 malchus. So we see that the Torah does that on Malchus. So why are you telling me it's Pashit that the pasuk needs to be used for something else? Amar Lei, he responds, Kolecha di'ika lemedrash darshina and v'lemikmin of lav yiseri. Important rule. Whenever we have a chance, don't just say, it's just another lav and another lav. If we have no other chance, that's what we say. But if we have another chance, then let's assume it's coming to teach us a drasha. Says the Gemara, 3 lines down, Chavdalim and Beis. Once we're in the middle of discussing the previous pasuk about the basar, the Gemara now takes a moment to learn out one more drasha from that pasuk, 3 lines down. If the flesh does anything that's tamei lo yachal, you cannot eat it. Dereisha lamali. Why do we need to say the word basar in the reisha? The rabbis eitim levayna comes to include the wood and the levayna, which is part of the keteris, which we've already seen. What's it coming to include? It's coming to include that those are mekabel tama, even though they're not foods, as we saw already. The reason is because of chibas kodesh, the endearment and the love of that which is in the Beis Hamikdash. That's why it's mekabel tama. Basar kol tar yoichal basar. The Seifa Lamali, why do you need that extra word basar at the end of the pasuk? The rabbis say murim to come to include us all the limbs and stuff that was burnt on the mizbech at the end of the day. And murim asanavka says Gemara, really, is that true? The Tani went to the Raisa. Va'nefesh zoichal basar mizbeach mizevach hashlamim. Asher laHashem, the rabbi said murim come to include the murim. Answers the Gemara, Asam Thomas Agof, Bekares, Hachav Thomas Basar Belav, 2 different cases. One where the guf itself is Tameh, and therefore that's an Isser Kares, and the other is where the flesh is Tameh. I'm sorry, the guf is Tameh, flesh is Tameh, which is a lav. Amar Avu, Amar Rav Yechon, Kol Yisurin, and that's the end of that drasha. And now we go, and that's really the end of this very lengthy, from all the way back, Chaval, Chabez, Chav Gimel, Chav Dalid, the lengthy discussion of Chizki and Rav Avua. Now the Gemara comes along and teaches a different din of Rav Avua. Amar Avu, Amar Rav Yechon, Kol Yisurin, Shabbat Teirei, and Loikin Aleim. There's no malchus on Yisurin in the Teirah. Ella Derech Achilasan, only if you consume them the normal way it's eaten. Lamute Mai, what does that exclude? Amar Rav Zimarash, Lamute Shemi Ochal Chilev. If you ate raw chaylev, which is generally eaten cooked, roasted, etc., if you eat it raw, then pater, you are exempt. Why? Because you have to eat it derech achilasan. That is the first lashon. Says the Gemara, second lashon. Rav Yichud Kol Israel B'Tari Loikin Aleim Elo derech hana'asan, a little bit different. Before we go over here, is that derech achilasan is the way to get this or deraisa. Over here we're saying derech hana'asan. Says Gemara lemute mai Rav Simber Ash lemute should be a chilev al shar niskal. If you took the chilev from the shar that's condemned to being stoned, al gavi makasa, and you use the fats, this chilev, for your wound, to put on your wound, so you would think maybe that's a form of usage, a form of consumption. Shu pater, you are pater. Why? Because it is not the din deraisa. V'kol shekain oichal chilev chay shu pater. If you eat raw chilev, there's not going to be an issa deraisa, and that's going to be because you only usher when it's derech hana'asa, in the normal way of consuming. It's Ranami says the Gemara Amar Ravacha bar Rav Yohi Amar Ravasi Amar Rav Yechon Yech Chilev Shal Shara and Iskal Agavi Makasa. If you put the fats of this condemned shar, of this condemned ox on top of your wound, says the Gemara, Potter, you're a Potter. Why? Fishakol Yisur Shabbatayre in Leiken Aleim Ella Derech hana'asa. Like the second lashon, any Isser Daraisa, any Isser of the Torah, you only usher the normal way of getting hana, and taking the chilev and putting on your cut is not the normal way of getting hana. Amar Rav Zira, Vanana Mitinina, we learn similarly in Seif Genes Arbayim Mishom Arla, Ela Yotzim Eitz Zisim Uben Anavim Bilvad. In Seif Genes Arbayim, you don't get malchus only due to the normal items that came out of the olives, that came out of the grapes. However, meaning what? Meaning drinks, the olive juice and the grape juice. However, the drinks, the liquids come out of berries and pomegranates and dates and figs of zari lai. In those cases, you will not get malchus, because it's not called the normal usage, going with the same idea of derech hana'asam. It's not the normal usage of these drinks for other purposes. When it comes to olive oil and grape juice, that is normal. Because other drinks is not necessarily normal. Says the Gemara, my time, you don't eat it. Derech hana'asam, that's not the normal way of hana. Seemingly concurring with the second lashon, that has to be the normal way of getting hana in order to be included in the iser. Amalei Abayi says Abayi bishlami yishminan peri gufa. If you're going to tell me that the fruit itself, that they didn't eat the fruit in the normal way, I understand what you're saying. Over here, just zeya. It's not because of the normal abnormal. What is orange juice? What is pomegranate juice? It's just the zeya, it's just the sweat of the item, and that's the reason why we're going to be Mako. Amar Abaye, and we're going to conclude with this. Says Abaye, Komodim Klaya Karen Shaloikin Aleim Afilu Shaloikin Derech Hanasan. We just began our machlekes, which will take us into tomorrow. Is it Derech Hanasan? Is it Derech Achilasan? Is it the way of eating it? Is it the way of getting benefit? Comes like Abaye, but everyone agrees by Klaya Karen, the vineyards Shaloikin Aleim. You get Malchus. Why? Afilu Shaloikin Derech Hanasan. Even if you did not use it in the normal way, what's the reason? My taima. The word achila does not exist by klai akarem, and therefore we learn out that klai akarem is even non-achila forms, even the non-normal way of getting hana you will be over in the iser, and we'll pick it up from here in the next year tomorrow.